Hi, let's compare voluntary with involuntary alienation. The person who holds the ownership rights to the property is said to have title. Transferred voluntarily or involuntarily by operation of law. Title can be transferred either voluntarily or involuntarily by operation of law. Alienation is the actual act of transferring title or an interest in real property from one person to another. Both voluntary and involuntary transfer of property is a form of alienation. Alienation may be voluntary, with the owner's consent and control, or involuntary, without the owner's consent and control. In real estate, the word alienation is neither bad nor good. It is simply the separation from property by transferring it to someone else. Voluntary alienation is when the owner chooses to transfer the property to someone else. Involuntary alienation is when the owner of the property either doesn't choose to transfer the property or doesn't choose who the property is transferred to. Transfer by voluntary alienation. Voluntary alienation transfers property with the owner's control and consent. Voluntary alienation is accomplished by either a deed or a will. Deed. When real property is sold or conveyed by gift, it is transferred through a deed. The deed itself is a written instrument used to convey or transfer title. The person transferring title is the grantor of the deed. The person receiving title is the grantee. Working as a real estate licensee, a deed is the main form of title transfer that the licensee will interface with upon the closing of a sale and purchase agreement. However, a deed may also be used when a property owner transfers property to another as a gift instead of upon a sale. Will. Real property may be conveyed through a will. Even though the person didn't choose to die, it is still a form of voluntary alienation as the person did choose to whom the property passes to upon death. Parties to a will. When someone dies with the will in place, they are said to have died testate. Intestate, on the other hand, is when someone died without a will in place. A deceased man who created a will is called a testator. A woman who created a will is called a testatrix. Transfer by involuntary alienation. When property is transferred without the original owner's consent or control, it is called involuntary alienation. Involuntary alienation includes transfer by descent, transfer by escheat, transfer by eminent domain, and transfer by adverse possession. Transfer by descent. When a person dies without a will, the person dies intestate. This is a form of involuntary alienation because the state, rather than the deceased, determines the disposition of the property. In the absence of a will, the deceased property passes to any legal descendants known as heirs. Transfer by a sheet. When a person dies intestate and has no known heirs, state law provides that the property will pass to and become owned by the state. Without this legal provision, property would remain in limbo and would languish, eventually deteriorating from neglect. Transfer by eminent domain. Condemnation is the legal process of the government to take property from an owner through the power of eminent domain. Any land taken must be for public purpose and not to benefit a private entity. The government is the condemning authority. However, the government can pass that authority on to a private entity, such as utility companies or railroads. Transfer by adverse possession. Adverse possession is when someone other than the owner takes control and ownership of a property. By providing proof that all aspects of ownership through adverse possession has been met, ownership title will be legally transferred by the court to the new owner without that new owner having paid for the property. The taking of the property is in opposition to the original owner's desires. It is transfer by involuntary alienation. Working as a real estate licensee, you may find yourself working with estates, selling property when the owner recently passed away. If you are working as the listing agent, be sure that you involve a good estate attorney and title agent early in the process. You will want to make sure that the parties offering the property for sale are the true owners of the property.